Hello everybody, welcome back to Road to Master. I hope you're all having an amazing day. We're starting off, we have the white pieces against an 1857 from International. D4. D4. I don't think I've ever actually played D4, but we're playing it now. We have an Indian game. So they're probably looking for a King's Indian, so we'll go ahead with C4. We know the King's Indian as black. We know the annoying lines, so hopefully we'll have some good luck against this. We're going for a King's Indian, so they're doing the usual King's Indian setup. Or not. This is the Grünfeld. So the Grünfeld I know nothing about, to be honest. Absolutely nothing about. So we're making up theory again, which is brilliant. I don't know if Bishop G5 is a move. It seems like a move. Followed by a swift e4, and then you could push either of the pawns. Let's go for that. Stockholm variation. It's a thing. Yay! That's always a good sign when something has a name. Although yesterday it had a name, and we was a completely losing opening for some reason. I don't know how that works. But sure. Sure. Let's go for it. So this is almost like Queen's Gambit territory, really. I mean, you see the stuff here, and they go for knight e4. That seems just not good, really. That seems not good at all. Why can't I just take this and play chess? Play chess. I could even just drop the bishop back after that. I could even just drop the bishop back. Not to d2 because we need the queen to defend the pawn. I think I have to take it, right? It'll be a bit silly not to take it. We can't do anything else because the bishop's hanging, so we either drop the bishop back or we take the knight. Bishop to d2 is interesting, actually. Although then their dark squared bishop is going to be quite strong. Oh, wowza. Yeah. If we take the knight, I mean, they're potentially even winning this pawn, which would be not ideal. I don't think we have many good ways to actually reclaim this pawn after like an f5 or something. We're sort of struggling. I don't really want to play f3. So the best move might actually be bishop to d2, and we keep the bishop close by. And keep this pawn on d5, I think, is important as well. Followed by an e3. I don't think it's wise to take this. Unless we play a takes, pawn takes, and then d5. Is interesting. But then, like we said, this bishop's super strong. With a pretty weak pawn. Let's go back to d2. Let's go back to d2. I think that's probably safer. And it's in the spirit of d4. You know, it's in the spirit of d4. They can't take this pawn because the knight hangs. And like in typical Queen's Gambit, we're fine with them taking. We play like an e3 and try to reclaim it with bishop takes. Or we could leave it and try win it some other way, or just do other stuff, ignore it basically, and take the central space, which is the whole point. It's not really a win material sort of gambit is the Queen's Gambit. It's a positional get the center sort of gambit, which is an interesting type. They take the bishop, which is fine. At which point we just do queen takes, I believe. And then we play for the center. E3. We can stick everything on a dark square. We're probably going to fianchetto the bishop just to try hit these pawns. We are happy potentially trading off in the center. That's fine. Probably a rook on c1 or something. Go after this pawn. Knight's coming to f3, although it could, I guess, come to e2 if we are playing e3. And it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. We'll say that much. Stockholm variation. Stockholm variation. Who would have guessed? I definitely wouldn't. it's similar to, what is it, the Trompowsky, although the Trompowsky is bishop there straight away. So you get d4, knight f6, bishop straight away, which we can have a look at. And after pawn takes, I think we just do e3. I don't think we do e4. E4 is a very tempting move, but after like a bishop g7, it's actually quite weak, and we still have the grip on the center, which I'm fine with, and especially when this knight comes out as well, everything's just going to be super solid. We could even just take this pawn back straight away, which would be quite nice. In fact, I don't see why we don't do that. And this is just a decent-ish position. You know, there's nothing particularly wrong with it. We get this knight out. And there's no pin with the bishop now, so we don't have to worry about any h3 ideas. So we could potentially push like a h4. Where does this knight particularly want to go is a good question. Is it better on e2? So we can play like an f3, although we want them to trade off their light squared bishop. So it's probably just straight to knight f3 and we live with that. They want to get this bishop out and probably play a d6 just to try blockade this pawn. I don't think c6 would be wise, because then your light squared bishop's running out of squares basically, and we sort of want to open up our kingside. So they go with e6 straight away, which means they have to make play with their bishop somehow, so it's probably going to be some sort of queenside bishop play. I don't see what's wrong with just castling here. And we want to start off potentially with the minority attack. And if you don't know what the minority attack is, they have 3 pawns, we have 2 pawns, so we have less. And the whole idea is you do a little mini pawn storm to incite weaknesses, basically. And because we have the open file, it's a really nice square for our rook. And combined with the other rook as well, it's just a good idea for an attack, basically. So that's our grand idea, basically, is the minority attack with the rooks coming in, because they are plays on the queen side, definitely. We have to be a bit wary of this bishop, but they don't really. They're gonna have to work really hard to get some kingside play, and with our bishop there, it's just quite nice. So the queens come on e7, which is interesting, I guess. I guess you're looking for some c5 push, with the rook on d8, so the pawn's pinned to my queen. I guess that's the big idea. At which point, doesn't rook d1 just solidify that? And you're not really threatening to take it anyway, because, I mean, we're just solid in the center. That's the whole point. We're solid in the center. So I'm wondering if I can rush in, or do I have to play some slow defensive move? That's the question. If it would be a h3, h4. I don't think h4 would work straight away, especially with the queen being there. I don't think we get worthwhile activity with the rooks, because the bishop's still here as well. So it would have to be h3 first, which seems very slow. So maybe just a rook d1, and we move this f rook. Usually the f would come to the e file, but we want to keep the play on the queen side. So we're moving the f rook over, so this a rook can stay on the queen side. And we do want to move this as well, just because of some potential pins with the knight and the rook. But, you know, we've got time for that. The queen's going to come onto the c file, I think. And then this rook's going to come onto the b file. And then we have these 3 all lined up, and it's looking okay. Basically, it's looking okay. Queen c2. a6 is weird. a6 is really weird. It's a non-move, really. I'm not threatening b5 in any way. and you've just locked in your bishop another square. So what's your idea? What's your idea? That you've denied your knight a square as well. So I'm wondering if potentially we even have a queen c2, bishop d3 with some h4, h5 ideas hitting this pawn. That would be interesting. That would be very interesting. So I think queen c2 here is the move. It's freeing up my queen from the rook. It's giving ideas of bishop d3. And it is potentially supporting some pawn storm as well. If they go b5, then they're giving us a tempo to go bishop d3, and we're quite happy with that. So let's go queen c2. And it's interesting to play these positions because this is not my sort of game at all. There's no central tension. So there's no tactics to work off immediately. There's very little open space. Everyone's sticking to their half. And the pieces are not particularly hitting anything either. So they've played b4. So we're just going to go ahead and play bishop d3. And we can start this sort of quick kingside attack. We potentially have a4 ideas. Although b4, I don't know what they're doing. I think b4 we drop our knight back to e2. And then again we're using their tempo to reroute our knight. Which is looking okay over here. It's potentially hitting some stuff. So they have their bishop on the b7 square now. So I'm wondering if we go ahead with a4 and start this so-called minority attack, whether that works or not. Am I worried about bishop takes, b takes? I think probably like a queen h1 and then just more pieces into the attack. I'm not particularly worried about any queen activity, especially if we have a move to move our knight over. I'm not particularly worried about that. It would slow down our kingside attack a bit if the queen comes onto like a g5. But then again, they would be losing out on what is right now their best piece. So you know, that's up to them. And then another thing with b5 as well, this c pawn's super weak. It's a backwards pawn. And I've got the semi-open file. They're going to struggle. They're going to struggle. So I'm thinking an a4 here. Undermine this pawn. Bring the knight back with a tempo and move it onto g3. And if they decide to take, I take with the knight and plop it right on c5, which is one of the most annoying squares in the world for them. There are some potential threats of queen takes with the pawn, but our queen's no longer on d2, so I'm not particularly worried about that. So a4, a4, ay. Anyway, who cares? We're still fine. We're still fine. I don't think the computer will hate a3. It's not ideal. It's stopping b4. Yeah. So it allowed that. It allowed that as well, which isn't nice. And we're gonna have to work for this now. We're gonna have to work for this quite hard. I think we do have to take. Unfortunately, we can't allow c4 because that shuts down our minority attack, which is the whole thing we wanted. So I think unfortunately we have to take. And after queen takes, probably a knight e4. Look to trade off queens. Although then we're losing the b2 pawn. Oh, these mouse slips, man. Yeah, it's tragic, really. It's very tragic. I wonder if knight e4 could work here. It is dubious, to say the least. It's very dubious. We've got to take it, right? Takes maybe even a rook c1. We've got to take it. We can't not take it. And then we go rook c1. So it's not the worst. It's not the worst in the world. We have had a change of plan though, a forceful change of plan, which is fine. You know, stuff happens. Stuff happens. We need to adjust our plan. We need to adjust our plan. We need to go on damage control. So I'm thinking 94, and we just look to trade things off. If we can trade off more pieces, we have the control of the files with the rook. We would like to play b4. b4 is next, if not knight e4. The problem is if they get a rook, ooh, they go for that, which can't be good. I mean, we're forced to take, right? There's no tricks we have. We're forced to take. Now, I'm not a fan of that move. Yes, it weakens our king a bit. It does nothing, though. It does nothing. You have, in fact, you don't have anything. Bishop e5, you have f4. We have knight e4 coming. We have bishop coming to e2. We even have f4 without the bishop coming in, just kicking the queen with the bishop e2. So we go to h1. Or do we actually? Do we? Do we go to f1? No, surely we go to h1. It's interesting though. Yeah, we got to go to h1. It can't not be h1. We can't get closer to the rooks. The rook's coming in. I think f4 with a bishop e2. And we just look to trade off. We need to play b4. In fact, do we want to play b4? Do we play b3? Look for an a4 and keep everything on light squares so the bishop can't hit it in the endgame. And we have opposite coloured bishops, which is something important as well. It's nothing to be overlooked. Opposite coloured bishops are, I would say, in this position, good for us. I would say good for us in this position. It's not ideal still. We have to be careful because of a lot of our pawns are on dark squares, and their light squared pawns aren't particularly hittable right now. These potentially, but it would mean a lot of work to get our bishop actually involved with those pawns. I think trading off the bishops was probably a mistake. It's not something I would do. Okay, rook a7. So you're looking to double up on, I'm guessing, the c file. I think we have time now, though. Your rooks are actually no longer on the same rank, so if I move this knight, you can't actually get anything onto the c file at all. At all. And then we have complete control. We have actual complete control. So I think a knight e4 is probably best here. Knight e4. Knight e4. That's what we've gone with. We're still potentially looking at f4. Still looking at bishop e2. Especially if the queen goes to h5. I don't think anything else particularly works. We're still cautious about these pawns. Especially if like a queen e5. b3. Yeah. Okay. So b3 are we saying? b3 queen there. We just leave it. We just leave it. We could even play an a4. Yeah, we could even play an a4. f5? F5, F4. F5, F4, knight C5. B3 is the way to go. That's what I've chosen. Anyway, I don't know if this is the way to go, but it's what I've chosen. We go A4, and we just keep in control. The rook hits the bishop. We actually look to trade rooks, potentially. Rook D7. Knight out. Huh. Weird. I wasn't expecting that. F4. F4 forces queen B2. A4. And they still don't have anything. And this knight's actually quite well controlled. The bishop's covering the knight, which is good. Queen D5 can't be right. Queen E5, bishop E2. Queen covers the knight. Queen has to move. Queen's trapped. Queen's trapped. Can't go there. Or you can, yeah, you can go back to A7 or B7. At which point bishop F3. Yeah, so you go for that. And I'm wondering here if A4 is the way to go. I think so. I think A4. I think we've recovered a bit. I think they've played some dodgy moves. They've played some dodgy moves. We've got our weak pawns on like squares now, which is good. Our pieces are still dominating the center. Their dark squared bishop doesn't have many squares. And yeah, life's just looking better. Just looking better. Rook B8. We trade off. And then start looking scary, I think. Do we trade off? Do we just keep trading off? And go into like a drawish end game? And try just make as much counterplay as possible? My glasses are still dirty. I need a proper glasses cleaner. It gets really annoying. I think I've just got greasy head. There we go. That's better. It's not really. That's a bit better. Yeah, I think A4 was a good idea. I think this whole A4 was a good idea. That looks dubious. That looks very dodgy. Although F5 is coming. So do we go Queen C6? Get the rook there. Hit the pawn. And we go a pawn up. I think we have to. Knight B8 is interesting. No, knight b8, queen takes. Followed by a knight c5. Yeah, I think so. Queen back to b2, we go rook c2, and then we're even looking at tripling up, which is quite nice. It's just the pin. We had to sort out the pin. So it's either a king move or that, and I think this is just more active, which can only be a good thing. As I always say, activity can only be a good thing. And it looks like we're heading towards drawish territory, which is fine with me, more than fine with me. After a mouse slip, it's more than fine. And to say it's an opening we have zero idea of, and we seem to have made good principal moves, I'm happy with that. I am happy with that. And I might not sound like it, but I am happy with that. And yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. Obviously, the computer analysis is a different thing, and we'll have a look at some theory. We've not done a proper master game analysis in a while, so that'll be quite nice to see. And to be fair, I think if we could win this pawn, it would be a big ask. It would be a very big ask, but you know, there's chances. There is still chances. It's not over until it's over. And I think the time we've spent a bit of time. We have spent a bit of time, but we're not crazy low on time as well, which is good. Not as crazy as it has been in the past, because we have had some stupid things time wise in the past. Queen d4 can't be right. Queen b4. Huh. Queen b4. Gosh. Queen b4. Queen to b4. Queen b4. Queen b4. b4 seems like the obvious move. Two options. I don't think queen e7, you would just lose the pawn, potentially even the knight, and this is a very scary pawn. I think queen a5 is actually the most viable. Interesting. Interesting. We can't take this pawn straight away because the problem is they take with check. That's the big idea. Gosh. A5? A5? No. A5 gives them way more than they deserve. B1. And we lose the pawn. No, but they have to move the knight. But knight there, then we lose the pawn. Gosh, this is actually a tricky move. Knight c5. Try look for trading off pieces. Let's go for that. And we go rook takes, not queen takes. Because we need the queen to keep control of the pawn. And then we can triple up, which would only be a good thing, surely. And now we are low on time. I say that, then we spend 3 minutes on a move. This, I swear the clock goes faster when it's my turn. I swear. Yeah, this is tricky. This is tricky. I mean, it's got to be drawing, right? I don't think. Although their dark squared bishop is dead, but after even an a5, bishop comes and covers. So it's probably just drawn. And we still get 3 rating points for the draw. And we take... Oh, we can take with the queen, actually, because we hit their rook. And that forces off a queen trade. Yes. Okay, that's good. So we get the rooks on the file, which is good. And we're stopping bishop coming to c3, which is good as well. And yeah, I think, is rook b7 a good idea? Rook b7 could work. No, because we just take the pawn, surely. And because we're hitting the rook as well, they can't take the pawn. And then we can happily sit the bishop on b5, disconnect the 2, and then we keep going. We keep going with 46 seconds left. So I think they have to. I think they have to trade off queens here. Or not. Or not. Okay, fairs. That's a check. Let's block the check. Let's block the check with the queen. And now here we are just winning this pawn. Now here we are just winning the pawn. Yes. We are. The bishop sits on b5. We're a pawn up. It's still probably drawn. Not a good idea to get your hopes up in this situation. It's probably still drawn. Depends if they can get their bishop active. Is a good question. Depends if we can play actively with the pawn. Is also a good question. Depends what happens with the rooks. Depends what happens with the queens. The longer the queens stay on the board, the more likely it is to be playable for me. The more likely it is to be playable because the more tactics that they will have, and the queens can hit the squares that the bishops can, because queens aren't locked to one colour like the bishops. And we need to be fast here. Luckily for me, I've been playing 1+1 and 1 minute flat, so hopefully hopefully we're a bit confident in some bullet-like situations. Yeah, I think we're happy. I'm not upset for sure. I wonder if a rook b1 here is a good idea. I reckon so. We're dominating these three squares, files, sorry. We're dominating these three files. We have to be aware of the f-pawn. That's our weakness at the minute. The bishop still can't play, although queen there now is actually a good idea. But then, you know, we're still up a pawn. At the end of the day, we're up a pawn, and it's a pass pawn, and it's far away from their king. So, we stick the bishop on there, we get the piggies on the 7th, and we see what damage we can do. Queen there. Now we have to drop the bishop to b5. Unfortunately, we can't defend that again. while still maintaining the pawn. I don't think we probably could have done, actually. We probably could have gone rook b6, though it doesn't look particularly pleasant. I really wanted to go rook b5 and kick the queen again, but then you lose everything, I think. So playing bishop b5 is probably omitting the draw, to be honest, but I am fine with that. I am fine with that. Okay. Let's go queen e3, e4 covers the c2 square for the rook. And once again, I am ridiculously happy that we are playing with an increment. Otherwise, it would have been over a while ago. We want the piggies on the 7th. As long as we can maintain a reasonable amount of control of our king, because this could very quickly get out of hand. We would like to swap off rooks, if possible. We would like to win this rook if they ever slip up or whatnot. And we've got to be tricky if we want to win this. We have to be solid if we want to draw this, basically. Potentially there is an exchange sack on the table. There is an exchange sack on the table if ever possible. And trying to promote the pawn, we would probably need things trading off. Let's go here and try to trade off some pieces. Yep. Keep trading off. Keep trading off. You take with the queen, which is interesting. Keep trying to trade. Keep trying to trade. We get some time back with these pre-moves, which is good. They're going to use their time to spice things up. Basically, that's their whole idea. They want to make things as complicated as possible for me. So I'm wasting my time, and they're doing exactly the right thing with taking their time. A lot of people, when they get into time control, they think they need to speed up as well. Which just isn't true. It's not how the game goes. I think we probably start getting our king to a bit of safety. There are some checks they can throw in, but I'm fine with that. Just getting off the back rank stops any stuff. I wanted to go queen d2, but bishop c3 does stuff with tempo, which is not nice. And we can start making potentially some threats here. Trading off queens would be great. Would be very acceptable. Acceptable outcome. Just so we can free up the bishop. That's all I want, is to free up the bishop. The rook goes down there, is fine. We continue with our plan, I think. We could even throw in... Oh, that would force off a trade of rooks. Which would be, again, favourable. Very favourable. And they're going to have a hard time attacking this. This is a weird little formation of pawns here. A weird little formation of pawns. And to be honest, I quite like it. So they throw in a check there. Which is fine. Do I go up? I don't know if that was the right move. Maybe not. F3 doesn't seem right either. Oh, the time's getting to me. It's fine. We're all good. We're all good. We're chilling. We even have queen e8 to trade off as well. That's a huge problem. No. We can go queen c6 with some nice tactics, because we take the rook with check. which is cool, which is very cool, actually. I was lucky we had that, otherwise that would just be losing a rook. We got let off lucky there. And is this forcing off pieces? I think maybe. Yeah, it's super lucky with Queen C6. I don't know what I was doing with F3. Yeah, super lucky. They throw in this check, which is quite nice. Looking to get some stuff. I don't think they have any though. We'll go to H3. And we're just avoiding checks. We're avoiding checks right now. And just leaving them in this unrealistic situation. And actually, H4 could be a mistake here. Because they would have to get their bishop to guard it without trading off. And if they trade off, they're giving me holes for my king to get into. Which is nice. Basically, which is nice. I don't know if I would trade off ideally the rooks or the queens. Probably the queens, so it's a bit less dangerous. But also the rooks could be a bit of a threat here on these pawns. Could be a bit of a threat. And this is going down to the wire. We're still a pawn up. We're still a pawn up. Which is good. Actually, no, they can do rook takes. They can just do rook takes. Because queen takes, rook's block. No, because then we win the rook. I'm so yeah, no, that's fine. That's solid. It's solid. I knew it was solid. I knew it was. They've got a minute left. They have got a minute left. And now they're in the red, they're going to start panicking. Which is good. Because that gives us a chance to weasel in. Because we're used to playing... seconds increment, you know, we're used to playing on increment, and they have their time. So we're going to trade off queens, and we're going to stick on the second rank and try and push this pawn. It's the plan. Bishop comes to C3. We go back to E2, A2. Sorry. We could even hit the bishop first and win this pawn, which is the better way to play it. Actually, the better way to play it. Bishop comes back, maybe even an E4. E4 looking at E5, locking their pawns. We take this pawn. Easy stuff. And now we're up 2 pawns. Miraculously, we're up 2 pawns now. So our priority is trading everything off. Everything. Absolutely everything. We got into A2, A1. Push this pawn. Their king can't get in no matter what. They can go to F5 if they really want, but they can't get in. There's nothing they can do. That is... yeah, I'm not falling for that. We can just do rook takes bishop. Yeah, we just do rook takes bishop. That's a cheeky little sort of flagging technique there. King takes, you lose the rook, and it's still potentially drawn, but that's a clear win for us, which is good because I wanted a win. I wanted a win. I'm not gonna lie, it's nice to win, and we actually got 92%. 92.7% accuracy there, which is wild, versus their 88.4. We had a huge blunder at one point. 2400 versus 2250, which is crazy. Opening, we played with 97.2% accuracy, middle game 89.6, and end game 98.7. Safe to say I'm happy. And if you look at this roller coaster graph, it's even, dead straight line, one dip all the way down to, what's that point? -5, and then even, and then all the way up to +5 for us. So, you know, the Grünfeld is something I've not seen before. We played this bishop g5, and we were right not to take the knight. If we see here, knight takes e4 is still actually fine, but I just didn't quite like it. So the best line is actually bishop to f4, and then knight takes, and you get this structure, which is very familiar for anyone who plays d4. I went ahead with bishop to d2, which, now that I think about it, maybe wasn't the best. It gave them a very powerful dark squared bishop, which we knew, but we felt we could blockade well enough. And I think we actually did prove that quite true. E3 is the way to go, not e4, like I said. We take the free pawn, develop the knight. And here it was straight away wants h4, which is brutal. I'm guessing maybe even like a castle queen side would be wild. And you just launch this. Wow. Castles is fine. Rook d1 is the way to go, avoiding any of these nasty rooks. Queen c2 is okay. It actually wanted rook c2, which makes sense, I guess. We sort of went there anyway, just getting off the pin from the bishop. But I thought maybe a rook b1 would be more useful, but fair enough. Yeah, the bishop comes back. It wanted bishop to e2 rather than bishop d3, which is weird because I thought my knight wanted to go there, but fair enough. I don't know what that's doing. Where are we? Bishop d7. I want the stickers. Is weird. It's not weird, actually. It's where the bishop wants to be. It's the only place the bishop can be. But like we said, this backwards pawn's horrible. A3 here, the mouse slip. It actually wanted knight to e4, which is a similar idea. I guess it's a bit more active if you go upwards rather than downwards. Knight to e4, rook dc1, and you play for the backwards pawn, basically. Okay, fair enough. Where are we? A3. I wonder what it's saying about a4. A4 is okay. C5 it's saying, with similar ideas, I guess. Takes, trade off. Are you not just winning a pawn there? Why can't you do like a bishop takes? Are you not just up a pawn? Bishop takes f3. Queen g5. Oh, and then I guess they claim they're better with the double isolated with the queen activity. Makes sense. Makes sense. Anyway, a3. C5 is definitely the right thing to do while you still can. Rook c1's fine. Bishop takes, I felt, was wrong for them. I mean, the bishop's their strongest piece. They've got two really strong bishops. Why are you trading one off for a knight? That's okay. It doesn't make sense. F1, king f1 is the way to go. Queen h1. King h1 doesn't particularly make it any worse, though. We played active with our knight on e4, which is fine. Apparently f4 is the way to go, but fine. b3, perfect thing to do as well. Then f4 as well. Wow. a4 is perfectly fine as well. Takes. And here we got a bit sloppy, I think. Stuff started to go downhill. Yeah, queen c6. It's a weak attempt at trading things off. And apparently they still can. Although trading off is still equal. And then knight to d5 probably wasn't the smartest idea either. Apparently it wanted bishop to f1, which is wild. Knight b8. I don't get that. Maybe it's just coming to g1, g2. I'm not quite sure. Knight takes, queen takes. The queen keeps moving. We keep trying to trade off. They don't want any. And then they give us the free pawn. And this is still drawing here, exactly like I said. It's still drawing. They get their bishop in. We attack them with our rook, which is still fine. Apparently king g2 is better. to avoid any back rank ideas. We sit the bishop on b5. They get their bishop on a5, or at least guarding a5. It wanted rook d6 here, which is interesting. And we said something like maybe rook b6, but I didn't guess d6 really. The rook's coming in. We keep avoiding trade, losing pieces, you know, trade off best we can. We get trades. Here it's definitely dead drawn. Queen d7's okay. We did see some problems with that. And here is a blunder. Here is a blunder. Wow. King g3. I felt king g3 was probably not good. But again, 29 seconds on the clock. Because of h4 apparently. And that is like sort of why it didn't feel right. You're cutting off access to your safety basically. So you're limiting the squares you have, and apparently it's just completely winning after h4, which we will show. h4, king takes, queen there. That was the idea. We win the rook. And why is that so? Why do you have to sack your queen? What happens if you just don't? Go there. Oh, that's mate. Wow, bishop f6 is mate. Ooh, brutal. So queen takes, and then you just down the queen. You get the rook, but it's not worth it. Yeah. Luckily, they didn't see we got to play a f3. And then this little maneuver, we got lucky with queen c6. Yeah, we'll get the arrows back on. f3 is a mistake, which I knew. Sort of straight away, it was like, why did I do that? It's a bit unnecessary. Best move was h3, just to give yourself this h2 square. We got lucky with this. Their best move is actually queen a5, which is weird. I'm guessing we trade off rooks. Yeah, bishop takes, and then we just play this draw on endgame. Fair enough. We didn't take the pawn. What happens? We can't take the pawn. Never mind. We trade off queens. And here they give us another pawn. I thought this was potentially winning, but again, you know, opposite colored bishops are ridiculous, especially I guess with the double pawns. It makes sense. And then they give up for this dirty tactic that just doesn't work. We can take the rook. We didn't even have to take it if we didn't want. But I'm not turning down a free piece and a free game. So I don't know how long the video has been going on for, but we'll have a quick look at this position with bishop g5. We'll see a win for white. The Grünfeld is a ridiculously popular line, so there should be some high-level games on here. If it ever loads, which it's not. Never mind then. Never mind. Anyway, the Grünfeld. Interesting. Very solid. Very solid. I don't know anything else, really. I don't know anything else. I wonder if there's any... What are the other positions? Stuff you can do here. C takes D apparently is best. Knight f3 as well. Anyway, it's very interesting. I'm actually tempted to play potentially d4 in the future. It's what the top players do, you know. It's what top players do, and it's very solid, and people get very good results with d4. You've got to fight for activity, you've got to fight for a win, but you know, that's if you're good at chess, you would be able to fight for a win. So maybe that's worth having a look into. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like if you liked, please subscribe if you really liked, and I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. Bye bye.